BroTime.
I have such a hard time letting myself cry when I get to that point.
Yeah.
Like, I try to talk myself out of it, like, you're fine, you know. But at the same time, like...
What purpose does that serve?
Exactly. I would encourage somebody else. No, cry.
Let it out.
And that's the thing. It's like, as soon as I finally allowed myself to cry and to let it out and to just, like, blubber a little bit, I felt fine afterwards. You know, I felt great afterwards. And it's like, I got to remind myself, like
it's okay to have emotions.
It's fucking okay, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard because, like, as much as I coach people on, you know, being emotive, we got emotions for a reason, we got to explore them. It's still fucking so goddamn hard to lean into that and, like, stop talking yourself out of it and be like, you're fine, you know, toughen up and stiff upper lip and all this bullshit that we've been told for these years.
Oh, I could watch a fucking dish soap commercial and I'll just be like, oh.
Yeah.
It'll fuck me up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I'm like, oh, there's probably some unresolved shit. Well, whatever. Load the
No,
bond.
it's the dishes. It's the dishes.
I really like lemon.
That dawn just really getting my eye. Jesus Christ.
Oh, well, usually it's the fucking, like, washing the fucking duckling covered in oil or something. Like,
what have we done?
I think especially as we get older, you know, we can't. First of all, we should not control our emotions, right? Yeah. We should just let them be, right? Don't go all buck wild and, like, I love the quote that all emotions are okay, all behaviors are not, right? When you feel your emotions, you allow your emotions to be present. They don't stink around and become shitty fucking behaviors later on that sneak out and, like, lash out at your loved ones and all this bullshit, right? So,
which is, like, what we're trained is, like, to just deal with.
Yep. It's like, oh, you're just an emotional human being and I've got to hold on for the ride. Man, no, it's not really that way, you know. And there's so many different ways to approach that emotional opportunities, you know, stabilities. One of the things that I've tried to catch myself, and I know 100% that I've been guilty of this a lot in the past, and I'm trying to catch myself a lot now, is allowing other people's emotions to be okay feeling awkward to me. Right?
That's a tough one for me.
You know, so if like somebody's crying around me, my initial reaction would be like, oh, it's okay, stop crying, it's okay.
Yeah.
But no, you need to cry. Right. And it's probably not okay.
No,
and it's okay
but
that it's not okay.
Everyone's first reaction is like, oh, don't cry. No. Yeah.
And it's like, I can't manage my own anxiety, so I'm going to try to manage it through you.
I you know, probably going to hell for this comment, but a lot of times when I see some of that shit, I mean, obviously if it's someone I'm, you know, close with, it's a different story, but, like, you know, I'm always reminded of the Family Guy speed racer. This does not affect me at all, haha.
Oh, it's a Family Guy speed racer.
You know, it's just kind of like, this does not affect me at all, haha.
Oh, man. Yeah. It's
like, it's just like, I mean, it's something you got to remind yourself at times. Like, it's just
it is. Yeah, totally.
Well, and I think having those, like, people pleaser tendencies that I think you and I really strongly have is that we immediately either take it on or try to get them to stop so we don't take it on. Right. So it's like this, we immediately get our own emotions involved in someone else's emotions that should not affect us at all.
Last week at work, it was me and another guy. We have the same title. So, like, you know, did very much on every account, like an equal at my job. You know, we all are equal, air quote. But the GM's like, all right, you know, one of you guys can go home. And we're like, oh, fuck, well, this never happens. Yeah. His birthday is the next day, and he's still not doing it. I'm going, oh, shit, this is what happened to two people pleasers are, like, sitting here. Yeah. We're just like, he's like, you can go. I'm like, you know, because it's my Friday as well. So I'm like, well, I don't give a fuck about your birthday. It happens next year, too. But literally, we're just sitting there, standing there. And then my boss just like, flip a coin. We're like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Then no one's to blame.
It's the fucking coin. I lost, which was even better. But, it was just like, holy shit, we both were just like, oh, this isn't going to go well at all. No, I'll stay. We both just are fucking miserable.
I'll stay.
Spend most of our free time bitching to each other about the same shit.
Yep.
It's like, no, I'll stay. I can use
I love my job. I love my job.
I
want to be here.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's such a pitfall of the people pleaser. It's like, you both in their heads are like, please just say that I can go. Please just say that I can go. At the same time, grinding your teeth, like, I'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Like, we'll be all right. it's like, man, why can we get to the point of like speaking your fucking truth and not being afraid to do so? And I know it's like, it's a process, right? Because a lot of us were raised to just bite our fucking lips, or my dad called it playing politics. Just tell them what they want to hear, right? They'll be fine. Fucking, you'll figure it out.
That's a Papa Real one, right? That's there.
Papa Real, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So dad back in the day. So my mom raised 3 boys, more or less by herself. My dad was around, but he's a truck driver, right? You know, so he's gone for months and months and then home for a weekend. So, 3 boys. I mean, we're all 2 years apart. Let's say
she did a good fucking job.
She did fantastic. Yeah. Fucking saint face. She wasn't a saint just because we called her that.
Right.
She was a
she
fucking
actually
saint.
was. Yeah.
But my mom would get to the point of like that frustration where it's like bubbling over, boys doing shit, and this was around the, let's say late 80s, early 90s, and dad got a truck phone. Right, he's one of the first people to have like one of the car phones, the truck phone, right? The big box and shit. Totally, yeah. Just a step above the MASH radios you had to wind back in the fucking Korean War days.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say, I'm like, you're not getting shot at. It's that.
But Mom Dukes would call Dad and be like, do you know what your boys did? And, that's a terrible impression of my mom, but that sounds just like Faye.
She was here.
And then she would just like, yell on the phone for a couple minutes, and then she would look at us and be like, your dad wants to talk to you. And then she'd shove the phone at one of us. Mm-hmm. And so I remember grabbing the phone one time, and I can't remember how old I was. I was under 10, so let's say between 6 and 8. And I was like, it was one of the first times that I got the phone, right? And I'm like, fuck, Dad's gonna be pissed,
Middle kid too, right?
Middle kid, right? Yeah. So usually it's Aaron, my older brother, would get that shit.
Or maybe
the little one.
No, younger ones
unless
don't
it was
get
like really bad, and then he would soften it up, right? But I remember my dad getting on the phone with me, and I was like getting ready. I was bracing myself to get yelled at. I'm like, oh shit, here we fucking go. Must have been 8 or 9, and my dad just goes, man, I'm 1,000 miles away. You're in Texas. I'm in fucking Maine. What am I going to do right now to resolve this problem? Stop fucking pissing your mom off. Mm-hmm. I know you don't like what she says sometimes, but just play politics. Tell her what she wants to hear. Nod and smile. And I'm like, okay, I could do that. Got it. And, I don't know if that was the seed planted for my people-pleasing, but, that's what I come back to a lot in my... And I'm not blaming my dad. My dad was doing the best he could. He's thousands of miles away.
Also, he's doing the same thing that he's telling you to do. I don't want these phone calls.
Exactly.
So I'm going to try to people-please my wife and my children so I don't get these phone calls. Because I'm dealing with shit 1,000 miles away. I don't want these phone calls. Yeah. So it's everyone's placating everyone to make their own shit easier.
$4 a minute back then.
Yeah.
Dude,
you know how much the cell phone bag cost?
Pre-inflationary, early 90s money.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, so this was when cell phones first came out, even the portable handheld pocket phones, not just the big bag phones that went in your car, you had to press end at the end of the call. You couldn't just shut your phone or whatever, right? And if you didn't press end, it would still rack your minutes up. And so I remember my dad getting over $5,000 phone bills multiple times because either us as kids were playing around with his phone. Let's call Mom from Houston. Yay, we're at the yard. We're going to call Mom. And then we'd say, hi,
we're
Mom.
in the yard.
And then not hang the phone up properly.
Right.
And then, a month and a half later from fucking, AT&T, we get a $5,000 phone bill and Dad would lose his shit.
4 months.
It's like, man, what the fuck?
Jesus.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
We're going to call Mom. We're in the yard. Cherry baby. You said call you when I'm in the city. I'm in the city.
Oh, I read something. So last week we talked about entertainment moving into real world. And there's this metamorphosis of reality TV now becoming we talked about Wag the Dog, which I meant to watch last night, but I
was going to ask if you watched it.
I think I'll watch it tonight, actually.
Yeah, you should.
But it's okay, so we all know that there's propaganda. It just happens. People poke the bear and they touch nerves and say shit they don't mean, and whether it's advertising or whatever. But I read something last night, literally before I went to bed. I read an article that said, and this was on it was on a major news network. I can't remember which, or major news outlet. I can't remember which one.
He doesn't want to say he was watching
it was
Fox.
Newsmax.
Well, actually, I had to think of
Newsmax.
Yeah,
he pays premium for his conservative talk.
What's it called? Oh, it's OAR?
OAR is a band. OAN.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly. I like how we're like trying to dig deep on like what other herp and derp shit do we not agree with?
Oh my God.
One radio
One America news.
Yeah, One American News. One American News. God, I've watched like a couple little handfuls of that. And okay, so what really gets me, and I don't,
it's like a sketch.
It's 100%.
Even like the graphics behind them, it looks like what you play in a movie about
like
propaganda.
The Onion. Like the Onion News Network.
Absolutely.
That shit should go back on YouTube. If you ever watched the Onion News Network from 15 years ago.
Well, I don't know if you remember or have seen the Chevy Chase sketches from back in the day, like when he was just on SNL.
Weekend Update.
SNL, Weekend Update style. And he would end his Weekend Updates with, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not.
Yeah.
Right? So that's very similar to the way the OAN guy...
still locked into that,
totally.
Despite the fact that he now just looks like a fucking assisted living shag commercial.
Yeah, and so many people have talked... Like, Joel McHale wrote a whole fucking chapter in his book about how to fight Chevy Chase. Like, there's a whole chapter in Joel McHale's book about Community, about how to fight, literally a blueprint how to fight Chevy Chase. He went and got in so many fights with Chevy Chase. Physical altercation.
So the Mohai's actually got an exhibit for Almost Live right now, going into September, and I'm fucking pissed off because I missed they did like a live like showing, kind of like Chappelle Show kind of thing, where they had like most of the cast there and they were just showing sketches and like answering questions and it sold out and shit. They did one of them, like that would have been cool. Almost Live was, you weren't here at the time.
Yeah.
I've heard
Actually,
a lot
neither
about
of you
it.
were, but that shit for a local, that was some brilliant stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's the way OAN. God, I get
OAN.
So at the OAN, the way the newscaster, and it's a gentleman.
You should probably you should let your listeners know what your True Social handle is. Just is it Zen and not Zen?
Yes, exactly.
Adam Real Healing and True Social.
True Social. But the male anchor for OAN ends all of his newscasts saying like, now this broadcast is available in the Library of Congress. You know, like to put like some annotated like emphasis of like, this is important stuff. This podcast is in the Library of Congress. Pornography is in the Library of Congress. Everything that's made goes. So it's not important that it went to the Library of Congress. So, but that all being said, go ahead.
Our shit's in the Library of Congress.
Totally. But so, and I should actually back that up. I don't know if podcasts are making it in the Library of Congress, but any televised media that's put out by a major news outlet, and OAN unfortunately is considered a major news outlet, all that stuff is put in the Library of Congress. So anybody can have access to that shit. Yeah. But anyway, so the article that I read that I think plays into the propaganda that just doesn't fucking make sense and is just poking bears and rubbing raw nerves is... This was the headline. Women who don't wear makeup are psychopaths. And that's a study that people have done that has results that say that women that do not wear makeup are psychopaths.
Guilty.
Well, you are.
I
know so many women that have
crazy women
made
too, bro.
a very conscious choice.
We are psychopaths
to not wear makeup.
In the eyes of the patriarchy, we are because we're free.
Yeah.
Because we're free.
So when I was with Sydney, my the mother of my children, back in the day, Peyton, my youngest, was just a couple years old, and we were down in Texas. It's the first time to go down to Texas, so Mom, Grandma, Faye could visit Peyton, and aunts and uncles, all that shit.
I found those photos on MySpace.
You did, 100% did. Yeah, you used to send them to me. Yeah, happy family. But so Sydney. So we went down to Texas, and my older brother Aaron's wife at the time was named Stephanie. They're no longer together. And Stephanie was like, hey, Sydney, let's go get our makeup done together. And Steph's born and bred in the South, right? And so in the South, it's very different, right? Hair is bigger, makeup's thicker, all that shit, right?
My cousin's in Tennessee.
They gotta go,
and they're like, we're gonna fix you. And they took me shopping.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we're gonna. And this was
like
when I was in middle school. Yeah.
Right.
Because they're like, we're gonna find you a nice Southern man. I was like 13. You know what I mean?
That's
I was just like,
what
okay.
made you gay.
It was just head to toe J. Crew.
Besides being born gay, what really kind of like drilled that in
J.
was...
Crew, 1998 in Tennessee. That's what turned me gay.
J. Crew.
Yeah, J. Crew shopping
khaki and muted colors.
So Stephanie takes Sydney to go get her makeup done, and then they're like, "We'll meet you at the photography place," which is like a glorified Glamour Shots, right? Which was fantastic. And so Sydney and Stephanie show back up at the place a couple hours later. And I had Peyton with me and my brothers and my mom, Faye. And Sydney walks in, and we'd been together for at least 3 or 4 years at that point in time. I did not recognize her.
Oh,
they had
shit.
spackled this fucking woman with makeup. And Sydney she wore a little bit like eyeshadow here and there or something like that, but never really.
Nothing like full coverage, baby.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it was like, and I forget how much makeup Texans wear.
Yeah.
Which is boggling to me because it's so fucking hot.
Yeah,
Exactly. You're sweating.
They would be the ones to like abandon the hair and makeup routine just sheer fact for humidity.
Yep.
Like
there's women that'll.
It's 61 right now. I was watching the logo. 61, 62 here in Seattle. It's 96 in Phoenix right now. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Living it.
There's women that come into hot yoga classes that come from work and stuff like that.
Curate the look though.
But some people like put the makeup on. We'll fix the hair.
No, there's like workout attire outfits that are coordinated. Like I show up looking like an old man if I go to work out. You know
100%.
Like, yeah.
But the funny thing is, the interesting thing about the it's usually women. I've seen a couple guys with makeup on. Don't get me wrong, in yoga classes, but mainly it's women. But it's and I'm not saying it's funny, haha, but like funny situational. But like you come out of that class looking like a Disney fucking villain, right? Your makeup's running, your hair's flattened out.
To me, I'm like
all
what
the
a
fucking
waste
Dalmatians,
of
all
money
the Dalmatians, bro,
and products. Like here's the thing, I don't like the argument of like pitting. I wear makeup, I don't. Like one is not better than the other. They're both great. But as someone who doesn't appreciate makeup, looking at someone who does appreciate makeup, I know what that shit costs. And you're telling me you're going to use maybe $5 worth of that makeup collectively for one use to go sweat it off? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, like the curated, like, athleisure wear, like, look, it's like, wow, you like, spent time.
Just to have it ruined.
To go... like, admittedly, look pretty fucking good before you go work out.
Sure.
Like, it's just like...
It does not make sense to me when people dress up.
I don't shower before I go hiking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like,
My younger brother used to, my mom used to get on my brother about making beds and shit like that, and one of the best responses I've ever heard, and unfortunately it came from my younger brother, was, I don't fucking retie my shoes when I take them off. Why should I make my bed when I get out of it? And I'm like, oh... Wow, that's smart.
That actually
makes
sense-ish.
Yeah.
Well, again, I've been wearing Vans, and I'm actually having to come back in my advanced age, having a tough time finding enough arch support for your boy's feet within a slip-on shoe.
Yep.
And I'm not doing a fucking Skechers, because that's just, I'm not that old yet.
Yeah.
With built-in shoehorn? Are you sure?
Come on, man, yeah.
But it's just tough finding a fucking shoe that I don't have to tie.
Dude, if you roll in with some Velcro New Balances, man, we're going to go to a whole new level in our friendship.
I don't know,
man. Counting the support.
Mandy came home from work last night because she's just been in pain constantly, and she like refuses not to wear Chucks, and I was like, baby, I love you.
Those are awesome. 50? I can't do it anymore.
You're 50 and you can't wear them for a 10-hour work day.
She wears Chucks to work. They match everything. That's the point.
Well, that's the thing. And because she was like, I don't want to look old. And I was like, I get that. But like, you could feel better as a human, or you could just look regular in Chucks. Like you're not losing much. And so finally she bought some, comfortable, ugly shoes. And she's like, last night she's walking into bed and she's like, my back feels better and I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, yeah. I wear ugly ass shoes to work. I don't look cool because sometimes you have to sacrifice looking cool for your own comfort. And you can play that game in your 20s, but you can't play it in your 30s, 40s,
you're a Crocs practitioner, and I just found this out yesterday. So that awesome movie Idiocracy, when they were filming that, they literally picked Crocs because they were super cheap and they were trying to do a budget move, and it was an upstart thing. They're like, these are
before they were $50.
Stupid. Yeah, this is a stupid thing that won't take
never catch on.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like totally like the biggest fucking. It's like the new Coke.
They are the shoe wear of the apocalypse. They are.
See, I mean, I was talking to a coworker, and she's rad. She's like, a couple years older than me, and she came in, and I'm like, oh, those look like brand new Crocs. She's like, yeah, I finally did it. And she's like, they're so fucking comfortable. I'm like, they're the stupidest looking fucking shoe I've ever seen.
Don't care.
Yep.
They're amphibious. I can wear them in any weather.
Right.
I don't care.
It's crazy.
Non-slip.
Get to that point.
Crazy.
They're safe. They're comfortable.
It's fucking insane. Fashion meeting function.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I have a maybe a correlation to this. There's a thought experiment or a thought process that I've been working through for a while now, and I've talked a lot about it on other podcasts and just with different friends and stuff like that. And it revolves around the idea of acting young, looking young, feeling young, younger than what we are. Right?
I literally just watched something about it last night. This is perfect.
Okay.
Great.
So, and this is okay, and I'm not saying this to anybody to like poke fun or poke the bear. Like, you need to feel good about you, right? And you need to feel good about you and your body and your being and your right. So if like there's elective things you can do that you need to do or choose to do that help make you feel like more of a human being, that's your choice, right? That's not what I'm saying, right? What the point that I'm trying that I've been thinking about that I keep coming back to is a lot of these elective opportunities, right? Take face creams, lotions to make us feel and act younger, remove the wrinkles, whether it's a surgery, a tummy tuck, liposuction, boob job, Brazilian butt lift, whether it's like dressing outside
Brazilian
of
butt lift.
the old BBL, man. Dressing outside of like not an agreed upon, because there's no agreed upon, but like, okay, so basically acting and doing things to be younger than your actual age, right? Now, the reason I say that is because one of the things that in the West that we've never really had, but have gotten so far away from, are rites of passages. Like, what happens to make you an adult? Like, what do you do? Like in indigenous practices, there's like, darkness things. There's like, hey, there's a face full of mushrooms. Go out in the woods and be there for 5 days and meet your spirit guides and come back. Right? There's all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm not saying that, but I think there's a big lack of guidance, wisdom, passing down of generational understandings and wisdom in the West because we don't have
culture.
Well, not because of that. Well, that's, I think, a part of it. But I think because we're forced to act and look and be younger. And so if we're forced to, and not forced in a way that, like, I don't have a choice, but like all the media, all the propaganda, the people that are on the magazine covers that we deem the prettiest people are still airbrushed, right? So nobody is perfect, but we have all these creams and surgeries and these ways to act young, feel young, be young, right? And so that's been being pushed since like the 70s, 80s, right?
And being
moving
pushed
forward
pretty exclusively at women.
100%, right?
Yeah, I remember
exclusively.
7th grade or 6th grade, the teacher was using the movie poster of Pretty Woman as an example. That is like literally Julia Roberts' face, and that's it.
And she was 18, 17.
Yeah.
And Richard Gere was in his 30s at that time, right? So I say all that to say this. If we're being told to act young, feel young, be young, and not actually being able to embrace the age we are, then we can't pass down the wisdom that we've gotten because we're constantly trying not to be that age. Right. And so we have this generation, us as part of that generation of people that have kind of had to piecemeal life together. Right. And so if we can be and act and embrace the ages that we're moving towards, again, you need to feel good about you. But if your quote unquote feeling good is acting, looking, and having surgery to take away the life that you've lived, then how do you embrace the knowledge of that life as well? Does that get cut away and does that get taken away? And if we're not passing that down, then you have all of these people that are reinventing a wheel that's already been fucking forged, right?
Yeah. I tend to be ageist with a lot of shit, like again, I've been dressing since I've fucking been 19, since I was 19.
Right.
Yeah.
Refined it, but yeah, we're pretty much the exact same shit that I wore in high school.
Right.
But I mean, I kind of now am cynical when I look at someone in their mid-20s and some shit. I'm like, yeah, you think you've kind of, and this is basically just following my own arc of kind of feeling way more comfortable who the hell I was about 30, 31, 32, 33 or whatever, and then having to change that again when I decided to stop getting shit-faced all the time.
Right.
But, like, the idea of, like, you still gotta live more life, whatever that means, before, like, I don't know. It's hard to not be ageist. I
get that. But I think maybe some of where I'm coming from too is like, part of the ancillary things that I do now that just kind of have come with the life that I have is like people reach out to me just to have coffee. People reach out to me just to have conversations, right? And not to say that like I'm giving all this sagely advice. It's just like, it's nice to have somebody hold space for you.
Sure.
I remember having people in my life that, would offer like, hey, if you ever need to talk or something, like let's grab some coffee. And it was so beneficial for me, so I try to make that opportunity available for other people. And a lot of those folks that reach out are sub 30, right? Mid 20s, early 20s, maybe some teenagers. And it is like, I see this constant thirst for knowledge that's readily available at all points, is not being given.
Well, we have the internet now, so that's the other thing. It's just kind of like it's no longer a conversation about the birds and bees. Yeah. Not to put my upbringing on blast, but a lot of times, which conversations should have been had. I've been having them in my 20s. I'm just like, we're gonna fucking do this now,
right?
Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool.
Well, I think there's no late time to have those, right? And
well, I guess my point was there kind of was.
Well, I don't know if there is because like I have these like there's this gentleman that I talk with that's mid-20s and talk with him a lot, and his dad was never really around. Mom raised him a lot, all this stuff. And one of the questions that he keeps coming back to is, am I doing this right? Mm. Am I on track? Am I in a place that's good? And I'm like, that's not even a question that you should ask. Yeah. I'm perspective-wise. You're 24. When I was 24, I had a kid accidentally.
Yeah.
Right? That to a lot of people is a death sentence, or it changes the trajectory of their life permanently, right? Yeah. I've got to concede life. I've got to whatever, right? I'm totally fucking happy with the life that I have, and I love that child. I have another child, right? Yeah. I'm not with that mom anymore, but we're still good friends, right? Mm-hmm. We still have so it's like I had an addiction issue. I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to alcohol. I was a shitty fucking dad. I was a shitty spouse. It doesn't matter where you're at. Mm-hmm. It's where you're going, right? And sometimes you got to do those things to understand that that's not a thing that you want to do. You see the impact that being a shitty dad is, right? I see the sadness in my kids' eyes, and I know that I'll never want to do that again. So I'm going to do my best not to be a shitty dad. But that doesn't like stake my claim at that point. Oh, now that I've done that, I've fallen off and I can never get back. I have fucked up.
Yeah, and I also think like with it, like just in your experience, like when you feel that kind of guilt of not being there for your kids early on, like, don't you feel like you have resolved yourself tenfold by now?
God, yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
But you still can't let it go.
Still comes back.
So it like, I mean, there's a lot of things like that with everybody's life, whether it's your situation or, shit that I did or you did or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, there are things that we just like can never get over, even though we have like, I have absolved my sins 10 times over by now, and I have noticed the change, and I have made the change, and I acknowledge this, and I acknowledge that there's this still thing, and they'd be like, yeah, but you did it, didn't you?
Yeah, I think of my neighbor's...
Yeah, it's never going away.
I think of my neighbor's hedge that I plowed my car through, like, probably every month or two.
Oh, yeah.
And that was
I think about, like...
25 years ago.
Like, things will pop in my head, and I'll just be eating food, and I'll just be like, like, it'll just pop in my head, like, oh, why did I say that? Oh, why did I do that? And then it's just, like, you'll never get away from it. But to your point with, like, not growing with our bodies, I think it's important to note that, like, that's, like, really exclusively for women. Like, we are meant to eternally be 30 or 20.
So crazy,
And I think, like, I watched an interview with Halle Berry like last night talking about this, where she's like, we do it to ourselves. Like she never
had kids.
No, well, I can't remember if she did or not.
I don't think she did.
I don't think she did. But she was talking about like going through menopause and
not saying any of this shit's, but
yeah. But, like, the fact that, like, Mandy's going through menopause right now, Halle Berry the conversation started about menopause, and she was like, there are all these things that we don't know about menopause because nobody talks about it. Right. And there are so many things that happen to us after 40 that even, like, doctors, there's not enough research. There's not, why does my body do this? I don't know. It's because we are eternally trying to stay in this age group.
We're trying to act like it's not happening.
Right, we're trying to act like it's not happening, and then, like... having the Emmys,
really
like you have hacks winning the Emmys, right? one of the screenwriters was talking about how there's like no characters over 60 for women on television. So it's like our entertainment, we do not see old women. In our lives, we do not see old women. In ourselves, we don't want to see old women. We are keeping, so it's just like we're not doing any service to ourselves as women by not talking about aging in a non-disparaging thing. Like, can't we just talk about like without admitting defeat that
women don't exist at the age of like the 40,
and men are allowed to. Men, for the most part, are allowed to be. Oh, they're old sages. They're wise.
She's 37
versus crone,
right? And women just float away into the ether. So it's just it is rooted in this patriarchal system of like you don't matter, and you matter. And it's not even like you matter when you're 30, and it's like you're living a constant life of feeling less than, and then even women in your own group of like there's no safe place even with other women because it's constantly like, oh well, her wrinkles are less than mine, or we're constantly comparing ourselves. No one talks about it, and it's just a vicious cycle that someone has to break. And I think what she brought up was, and I saw another one with Lauren Bacall where she was just like, yeah, I refuse to keep playing these parts, and if that means that there's no more parts for me, then I'm going to do that.
That's
like, I fucking refuse to do this. So I think it's more about, like, talking about what's happening to our bodies, talking more about what's happening with our, in our own minds when we're aging, and not having it be a defeating conversation and just being, like, celebrating it. Yeah. Or, like, we're all getting there. Hopefully we're all
10 hours in chucks.
Yeah, 10 hours in chucks.
Like,
time to throw it up.
Like, dude.
You're gonna
it's okay.
You're trashing your back.
It's okay.
It's like, love you, Mandy. 10 hours in chucks, dude.
Out of your mind.
I've never done anything like that.
I go to, like, a concert in chucks. I'm like, why did I do this?
Never.
Why did I do this?
Regret that. Yeah.
It's terrible. And, like, what are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove?
I'm hip.
You're in high school with... They're going to think you're in high school with 16-year-olds. No matter what you wear, you're a fucking goon. Like, you're not cool.
Oh, God.
None of us are. I'm not cool.
Goon.
Like,
you know what?
Dude, this is the generation that says let's go and, like, deliberately does the one shoulder off the sweatshirt thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I grew up in that. I grew up... The South, we did that in the South.
Yeah.
That's just too fucking hot.
Well, you also had one pant leg
Couldn't
up
wear
and one
whole
pant
clothes.
leg
That was
down.
LL Cool J.
Well, that was also, we didn't ride bicycles, so that was a thing that in the South we did. But there's a friend of mine, his wife just crossed over the 50 recently. She's like 55 or something like that recently.
The 50.
Yeah,
and like God forbid you're a mother. You're even you're even pushed to the even quicker if you have kids.
Well, so I was talking to he's been on my podcast a couple times, the other show, and he's a great guy, and he was talking to me about his wife, and his wife had said something to him recently. It was like, I didn't realize I vanished.
Yeah.
I'm invisible to public now. I could literally go into Fred Meyer or a fucking grocery store and steal everything, and no one would see me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a middle-aged white woman.
Yeah, I was going to say she's white, though, right?
Yeah, middle-aged white woman. Nobody sees her. She's completely invisible.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's terrifying as it is. It's like, and this is her saying this. She's like, I kind of think it's like an unrealized superpower, not in a nefarious way.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But like, okay, so now I'm unnoticed. How can I impact people while I'm being unnoticed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what's that next step? So it's like utilizing what society has just innately done by allowing this human to vanish in their eyes. It's like, okay, well, what can I do now? Mm-hmm. What can I do to impact that?
Well, and I think it like really also because it really impacts women in straight relationships that I've seen just in my own experience is like, or my mom's generation, especially my mom, like the threat of losing your partner because you are aging is so real.
Yeah.
That it affects your decision making on a primal level. And it's like one I can't even really comment on, but like I just with my own family members, like not just, my own parents or whatever, but like just other people in my family that are in straight relationships, like the conversations I have with these women, it's like, so you just walk around feeling like this all day? That's awful.
Right.
But it's not crazy because it's true. Because they do leave them for younger, they're all divorced now, and all of the stepmoms are
on like a blind date last night, or like an online date or whatever. I mean, you work in the restaurant, and you see it, it's fucking obvious. And this shit
you can spot it a mile away.
This shit was beyond fucking awkward. Yeah. And they're both doing their fucking best, and by all accounts, I think they hit it off, and good, for all I know, they went and, banged it out in the back of the Tesla.
Yeah.
Or the Tessie is my coworker in the Tessie.
The side
Go back
truck.
to the townhome and we're going to charge the Tessie.
Yeah. Rock the Cybertruck.
But again, how much of that shit, obviously they have got stories,
Yeah.
Guarantee you there had to have been at minimum one divorce in that couple, you know what I'm saying? But it's just like, it's so fucking brutal. It was hard to do I did a very brief spat of online dating, like 3 years ago. Didn't really try, and that was awful.
I couldn't even
at
imagine.
35 or 30, whatever the fuck. I
But
can't imagine
a
at 53.
50-year-old dude is not in the same position being single again as a 50-year-old woman.
No, because presumably he's got his shit together. Yeah.
At all.
Well, and I mean, so on the other side of the age spectrum, like we have, like you're talking about, like older women disappear, we start to lose ours. You know how many fucking crazy ass #1 or top 100 songs have been written about girls under the age of 18?
Oh, I think we've talked about this before.
Over the age?
Under the age of 18.
Oh,
like, I'm
dude.
on fire. Hey, little girl, is your daddy home?
Yeah.
Right? There's like a Winger song about she's only 17.
Yeah.
There's like... There was a song
You're
by...
16, you're beautiful in your mind.
Yeah.
Journey, there was a song about a girl that she was 12.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
Yeah.
And this is, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, Yeah. That's not that fucking long, right? And so to the point you're making, it's like, not only are we not allowing people to embrace the age, we're force-feeding all this propaganda on them, and then we're singing about the fucking children that these older women are having, about how attractive they are.
We talked about this.
We've
talked about this before, but I literally brought this up last night. There was something on TV. I was skimming on Hulu, and there was something about child stars, and it had Demi Lovato's face. And I go, I don't know too much shit. And I go, that's some chick who was fucking groomed by that 70s show guy.
Yeah.
Wilmer Valderrama. I'm like, that's all kinds of fucked up.
Yeah.
And
then also, watch the Brooke Shields documentary about her just her entire career.
Yeah, it's fucking awful.
That is the epitome of what happens to women of that generation. And I think it's less so now, obviously, but like that entire documentary was fucking terrifying.
What blew me away, and I was when I was going on this rant to a disinterested partner in the kitchen while I'm fucking like, oh my god, give me the photo. I was just in there going, when I was in fucking like middle school, I knew Aaliyah was banging R. Kelly, and now he's finally in jail for that shit. Right. But it's just like, okay,
we all looked at that and
how did I know
normal.
that? Like, why did I know that? And how was that fucking K?
Right.
Well, I, as a child when that was happening, I saw her as an adult because she was being propped up as an adult. So in my brain, she wasn't a peer. She was an adult because the entire entertainment industry was looking at this 15-year-old, and like any picture I saw of her, the album covers, it was all very adult. And so
age ain't nothing but a number.
Right. And so it's like, so I'm looking at this as a kid as like, oh, okay, that's what adults look like, when really she was 6 years older than me.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So it's in, men are also viewing her in that way. And predators are also viewing her in that way, and other women are viewing her in that way, and other children are viewing her in that way, and it's like, it is a vicious cycle. And I think the disservice that we do about not talking about it as women is like, we end up falling into that trap. We all in our back of our minds are knowing we're disappearing, and we know it's bad, and we know that, we're not supposed to feel this way about each other and ourselves, but we do. But because we don't celebrate age, or like, I also think like the beauty trends from like early 2000s, like how every adult dressed like a child, like out of Claire's, like, the Y2K thing. And we're kind of starting to move away from that.
Whoa.
Like, look at red carpet pictures from like 2001. Adults looked like children. They dressed like children. It was
low-rise skinny jeans and midriffs.
Well, just the styles. It was just very gross. And I think we're starting to see more older women in roles just in the entertainment industry, and I think we're starting to see just more older women in general. But I can't wait for the beauty trend that is like, oh, I want those wrinkles. Oh my God, those crow's feet. Oh my, like, you know, we're growing out our armpit hair. The thick eyebrows are back.
Gray hair is in. Yep.
So I'm like, oh God, we're close. Like, what if in 20 years, like, we're coveting wrinkles?
Yep.
What if in 20 years we're coveting back fat? Or what, like, because that just shows, like, because we're moving towards
this. That used to be the sign of riches when you were heavy because you could afford food.
Right. Yeah. So it was at one point, and so it has to circle back because trends always circle back. Right. And in 2000, I could never imagine having a unibrow on a red carpet, but people are now doing that, and it's coveted. And I was like, it seems crazy to talk about, because we can't see it, but I'm like, one day we are going to be coveting old age.
Yeah.
It is going to be a coveted thing, and I can't wait for that. I probably won't be around to see it, but like...
Right.
See, Chuck Taylors have been in fashion the entire time, though. So Mandy is right.
True.
Like, the entire time, Chuck Taylors were an acceptable fashion accessory.
I have a good friend of mine that's, let's say, mid-50s, early 50s, whatever, but she's got grayish hair going in, you know, gray and dark hair.
I can't wait for
She looks great. She's fantastic. Yeah. And we were talking a couple weeks ago, and she was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go get my hair done. I'm going to get dyed and blow it out and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know, do you. And I saw her the next week, and I'm like, oh, I thought you were getting your hair done. She's like, my daughter talked me out of it because people are paying hundreds of dollars to have the hair that I naturally have. I'm like, fuck yes, good for you. Like, embrace that shit,
and as someone who, like, my entire life, I could not wait to get old.
Right.
Like, I never had the worry of staying young. Like, I always wanted to be old. So I'm like stoked every time I get another birthday. I'm like, oh, I'm even closer to 50, being an old curmudgeon. Like, I want to be at 80 years old. I want to be it now.
You're going to walk around parks with your hands behind your back.
All I want is to be old.
Dude, I do that now, man.
You fucking do. Like, what is the purpose of that? You have good posture.
It's comfortable.
It's
fucking walking
around. I
don't have
to swing my arms.
See, that was a Madison Owens thing.
It slows you down. You automatically slow down when you have your hands behind your back, because it's psychologically, you can't catch yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to slow down, right? And so it's really nice, actually. I can't do it when I'm walking the dogs, but
fuck, man.
But there's a quote that a good friend of mine says a lot when you're talking about the, you know, like the cattiness that we could have against, like, oh, this person that, and then look at that person trying that. It's like, we should straighten each other's crowns, not knock them off.
Right. Totally.
Right? So it's like, let me help you straighten that crown, and not like knock off your crown. Be like, oh, fuck you with your fucking midriff.
Look what you're trying to do.
Like,
yeah.
But there's just back to the musician side real quick. There was a great story. It's a horrible story, but it's a really powering story about Kesha. Right? You know, so Kesha was in this, you know, she's a Kesha with the $sign in the S, right? I don't know.
Oh, I celebrate her catalog.
Yeah, right. You know, I don't know much of her songs.
Yeah,
I mean,
what
I've
was
heard
her
it on
biggest
the radio.
hit?
Well, the song I'm talking about is
TikTok on the cut and the
Never heard that.
Wake up with my tea with a bottle of Jack, and then it's spent.
See, that's great too, but I don't know that either. You're doing a fantastic job. I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
But her biggest hits were manufactured by a dude. Like she was like victim of being a predator. He like fed her alcohol and drugs and
was the label exec and the producer on her album.
It was a very gross thing. And then as soon as she came out with her own shit, that song "Prayin'" is a bang. Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Well, so the shitty thing about her story that's really, really tough that okay, so yes, it sucks that she was molested and all that stuff, right? But she was able to go to court and say, hey, this dude did it. They found that guy guilty, right? The shitty thing about that whole situation was, because that guy was the record executive and the producer on her album, even though he raped her, she was still contractually obligated to make music for him. And so the song "Praying" was the first song to come out after the contracts and after the litigation and after all that.
Really, despite you can't get a bereavement kind of whoa.
The judge basically stonewalled it and it's like, no, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, this person molested you. I'm so sorry for that, but you are contractually obligated to fulfill your side. So you've got to make music and make this
that guy obviously had more money and a better lawyer, basically.
I don't know the details, but that song "Praying" is basically about.
God, I gotta listen to like multiple Kesha tracks to get this narrative.
It's a good song. It's a really good song.
Her album, I can't remember the name of the album, but it's like pink and orangish, and it's got a triangle something on the front.
Yeah.
But whatever that album is it's incredible.
Did you ever see that viral video from about like 10, 15 years ago? And I think this girl it was like a courtroom, and she got like a manslaughter DUI case, and the judge is like, going to jail, and she's like, well, I can't go to jail next week. It's the Kesha concert or whatever. The guy's just like, well,
that's from Teen Mom. That show Teen Mom. She's like, I have tickets to Kesha. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I can't go to jail. I'm busy. Like,
that's from
what was
Teen
her name?
Mom.
What was her name? Janelle from Teen Mom.
Thank you for being able to dust
I knew that.
Janelle.
She's a hot mess. And she's like, Kesha is she was like her Beyonce. So she's like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
This supersedes legal obligations.
You're going to hold me in contempt, apparently.
Sorry, it's already booked. It's already booked in my calendar.
You're going to have to hold me in contempt.
Yeah.
All of this, it's all very true, obviously, and it's all, perspective based. But what really terrifies me is like, I got two young kids, two young daughters that, I think Peyton is more in that scholarly area where she's kind of like made it through. She was a COVID kid, so she didn't really have a lot of high school experience. Luckily, unluckily, however you want to look at it. But my youngest, Harper, like she's more like social. She's more sports. She's more like involved in the cliques and the groups and the stuff like that. And so, like, as much as I feel confident about her abilities to manage those situations and to cope with some of the verbal backlash that you get in high school. Like she talked to me about that a few times, stuff like that. I feel good about her doing that and managing that. It's still like as front facing as we are, like down deep psychologically, that shit fucking it's
everywhere.
Such
you can't
a role,
you can't compete with the amount. Like it's a losing game.
Yeah, and that's why I love that they're traveling now. Like my oldest and my youngest are traveling now. Sometimes within the continent, sometimes outside of the continent, but I need them to see that there's different ways to do this. Like not just me tell them like, hey, you don't have to look a certain way or you don't have to love a certain human. You can be asexual, be protosexual, whatever the fuck you want, right? Vaginas and penises all day long, whatever you want, right? I don't fucking care as long as you're happy. But it's like, as much as we're saying all this stuff to them, I know how much it doesn't land because of the social structures and the everything else that's going on outside of them, which I don't want to control. I don't want to bubble wrap my kid, but it's like I think for me, it's like I just got to be aware of the impact that I can potentially make and not try to like force an impact, right?
Yeah.
Because again, like as much as the information's out there and as much as I want to make sure they understand it, I can't force it to them. Yeah. It's it's like your ego. You've got to come to it on your own, and you've got to see that understanding for you really to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and the irony is it comes with age.
It does.
Like the longer that you're on the planet, you buy into it for a little bit, and then you realize how silly it was that you bought into it, and then you make another choice. And I think like traveling, doing things that you like, getting good hobbies or creative endeavors, like it gets you out of the mindset of thinking about you. So I think the more you can put your brain in a different space, the less you're thinking about like, oh, how I'm being looked at or perceived, or how I feel about myself. I'm just like, oh, I have this trip and I have this beautiful thing and all these people that I enjoy hanging out with, or this thing I enjoy doing. Right. Like your brain doesn't have time to think about that. So maybe that's like a good way to combat it, which it sounds like they have those things.
They do.
So
totally.
Just lean into that shit.
Yeah. Another random, completely off topic, but I figured we could maybe kind of like wrap up on this just statement. But so I don't watch Fox News. Actually, I do. I do watch Fox News.
He says
again, they're too liberal for him.
Well, no,
like she's One America Network or whatever the fuck.
Like they're too middle.
Between CNN, NPR, Fox News. Like it just I'm not sitting there watching fucking Sean Hannity or whatever.
He's got multiple.
I'll make sure
like
I can understand what's going on. Like I like to know the rhetoric. I like to know the arguments that are out there. What. Like I didn't watch the debate, so I had to watch Fox News to see Donald Trump call Kamala Harris a whore. Basically, she sleeps around. She's known to sleep around or whatever.
Oh
right?
no. That was like a little bit taken out of context. But when he said that, I was like, oh, I know what he meant. Okay. But how it got perceived, I was like, oof, because it was talking about how he thinks that she all of a sudden turned black, so he said, well, I don't care. I heard this and that she put out. and he made it sound like that she puts out, but it was like the statement that she put out.
Oh my
but
God.
Because he's Trump, it's like this double meaning, and so it's like it could be this way or it could be that way, but it's maybe both. You know what I mean?
I never thought about it being an unharmful statement.
Because if you watch that whole clip, the whole clip of him ranting and raving, it's just like a train of thought that is just no filter verbal. So it's just like words coming out at the same time. So,
word vomit.
Oh yeah, she did this, and all of a sudden she's black. She put out, and I'm like, no. She put out that she was black is how that sentence should have gone. But like everyone was like, she puts out
like,
what?
The fuck?
Like,
so. And that's a great point.
I hate
it's
that
like,
I just defended him right now.
No, I think it's great that you did.
Not to like keep drudging up all of the fucking
Sign
rhetoric.
of a healthy marriage
that's
also.
Well, and I think that's okay. So I champion the fact that you just defended him because you could very easily been like, yeah, that motherfucker said that thing.
There's a lot of things you can shit on him about, but like I don't want to get into the whole like it feels like high school when you start doing shit like that where it's like, okay, but there's actual dangerous things he says. Let's focus on that. Right. Like this is not the thing that we need to focus on.
And so like that rhetoric and that kind of idea is what drew me to this headline. But basically what it said was Fox and Rupert Murdoch admitted under oath that Fox is not a news network. It is purely for entertainment.
Yeah.
Under oath, admitted that in a courtroom.
Yeah.
And it's still, people are just like, and even like the personalities, like Tucker Carlson's not there anymore and things like that. Like they've even come out and be like,
all those text messages came out that they don't believe any of the shit that they're saying. And it's just
I'm sorry. Great. Like you have a presidential candidate that is guilty in the court of law for 34 felonies.
Yeah.
And you ask those voters and they go, well.
Right.
But the economy, they don't care.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
And that's the thing. It's like,
it doesn't matter.
We're getting to that point. Like, it's got to get so fucking stupid and ridiculous.
He's guilty of sexual assault, and they go, well, yeah, but taxes are really high.
And so all of that, like, excuses, and then like, but Fox News has the truth, but it's an entertainment network.
No, it's not about the truth. It's just,
and they're like, but it's still the truth that I want to hear, and it's like, well. I think when do you, and I say this, and I've said this before on the show, but I say this because like, I take this as my own personal warning sign.
Yeah.
What am I getting so far behind or so like involved with that I cannot see outside of it?
Yeah.
Like I was in Spokane this last weekend for an event and I was staying at my friend Hannah's place and I pulled up to her place, middle of the day, not really looking around because I'm trying to look at directions, and I parked. And I've been to her house many times, and I get out of the house or get out of my car, and I just like, I've been driving for 5 hours, from Seattle to Spokane. So I get out and I do the old stretch, get my bones creaking and shit, and I just like happen to turn around while I'm stretching her driveway, and the house right across from her, not even joking, 37 Trump signs. Towers of Trump signs and the middle finger and the busted ear pictures and all that shit, right? Hardcore, right? And I'm like, oh, well, that's aggressive.
Yeah.
And so then I'm talking to Hannah about it, and she explains to me that every day this man opens up his garage, which has 2 Trump flags in it, and then places, based off his intuition, it's never same. Based off of where he's feeling it, puts the Trump signs and the towers out, and then takes them out every night and puts them back.
Because he doesn't want them to get stolen.
Because he don't want them to get stolen or fucked with, right? And I don't care who you fucking believe
probably
in.
Keeping that guy alive.
Well, that's the other side. Okay,
that's what I was literally just gonna say.
There's a part of that I was like, part of me is like, good for you for having a routine because there's a big routine, right?
God damn, is it bad? And I'm just like, wow, that's his golf.
But again, like, and this is that personal thing that I've got to look at myself because there's ideas that I really look towards, right? Buddha, right? There's like the peaceful practices, all this stuff that. When you put that much idolization into anything,
literally
anything,
you're lost in the sauce.
That's fanaticism,
really, right? And it's like whether it's a human being, an ideology, a practice, like all that shit.
It's a comfort blanket at that point for you.
Yeah, there's nothing healthy about that.
No, and the thing about the reason why it doesn't matter what Trump says or does or. Cats and dogs are being eaten, 34 felonies, sexual assault, fucking, like, just horrible things that he has done. It doesn't matter because he represents all the hate that these people have felt and felt like they couldn't say. He he is now the permission to be like, I've never liked those brown folks and I've never been able to say it. Mm-hmm. But now I can hide behind this thing and just say that I'm a Trump supporter. And now I'm with these people that also felt like they couldn't say it. And, you know, those gay kids, and they always made me feel uneasy for some reason. So now I can say it with my full chest because I have people behind me. So it's less about, so it doesn't matter what crazy things he says, because the culture of that following is so riddled in otherism and the scared, I'm going to lose my white power.
Yeah.
And I've never had the words or the opportunity to, like, say it without, you know, joining the KKK, basically. Right. And so, like, now is my opportunity to make America great again, to use all these words that are fucking dog whistles for what it really means, which is just transphobia, racism, Islamophobia. And I've never been able to say it because I didn't want to be the bad guy, but now I'm not a bad guy, I'm just a Trump supporter. And you're infringing on my right for not doing that. So that's all that is.
Yeah, I've never even really put that together.
No, it's all
you know, because it's still, it's not admitting that you have hate.
No.
Because it's guised in support still.
Exactly.
No, I'm supporting this person.
No, I'm a patriot. Fuck you.
Fucking that maybe that person has views that might be anti XYZ, but I just really like the way that he presents. Yeah. So you're still
white
supremacy,
it's a variation of positivity. Patriarchy on blast that I have never been able to say with my full chest, and now I get to say it with my full chest under the guise of a Trump flag. So it doesn't matter.
Bill Burr had a thing where he talked about middle-aged or the white male-dominated society. He's like, white women are next to these guys in the hot tub as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's a really good fucking point.
It is because there's safety in that, right? It is. This is the devil that I know. It's been around my entire life. I know how to maneuver around them. I know how to do this. We talked
about being with a partner because you're an older woman and shit. Fuck.
Because it's scarier than stepping out on my own, fighting against the man, taking down the system. Like, that's terrifying if you've never had to do that. But if you have grown up in a world where you are catering to these white men and you know how to do it, that's a lot less scary. And you get benefits.
Yeah.
You get protection. You get privilege. You get wealth. There's a lot of things that come with that.
You get the derby cap and the fucking...
You can look the other way a lot easier being under the protection of a white dude in this country for white women.
I think there's a lot of... so that statement that you just made, I agree with 100%. But I think that statement that you made also is leading to the volatility of the folks that think that way, because a lot of times I don't think they think that way. I don't think they know that they're thinking that way. Right. I don't think they realize that there is a system set up to benefit white people, white men, and white women along with that, right? And so I
think that it's just that feeling of panic.
Well, that's it.
They don't know how to put words to it or I agree with you. Right. It's not like, the covert thing.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think they're that smart.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's where this is getting a little sideways, is that these folks that have been assumed to have had privilege, right, by people of different races, are now looking at that and be like, I have no fucking privilege at all, because they don't see it. Right. Because they're in poverty, they're not living their best life, they're addicted to something, right? Yeah. They're not seeing the benefits that they have, but now it's being like, but I see you fucking cis white folks over there, you're getting all the benefits. Like, what the fuck benefit do I have, right? And so there's this uneasiness because there's an expectation of doing better that they're not actually seeing, even though they're living it, right? And so then there's an animosity about the person of a different color because of that being pointed out, instead of the idea of like, why did I agree to a system that I'm not benefiting from, that I was told to benefit from, that I now realize I'm not? And now, where does that anger go?
Why would I put the blame on myself when I could put it on immigrant? It's not my fault that I'm living the life I don't want to be living. It's their fault. That's way easier.
And that's one of the reasons why I think, like, unfortunately, my business has been doing so well, is because I think people finally get into those questions, and the people that
that's heavy shit.
The people that are really courageous enough to sit with that, not even answer, because they're hard answer questions, but
just to acknowledge
that it's a question. Exactly. It's like,
huh?
Fuck. Yeah. I need to go talk to somebody about this, because like, man, this is bullshit. You know?
I need to go talk to a white dude or watch his Fox News about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did a whole episode a while back, about 2 years ago, with this guy named Tim Wise, who's a white gentleman, but he's an anti-racist, prolific speaker. He's a bunch of YouTube specials. He's been on CNN many times, but basically had him come on, and the idea of the show was confronting your the part that you played in it. Mm-hmm. Like you, even if you didn't realize you were playing a part, it's like as soon as you realize that you're playing a part, how do you confront that idea without playing a victim card?
No,
right? And be like, oh my God, I can't believe I was such a shitty white person. Somebody come hold me and console me because I'm sad. Oh, I didn't mean to be bad to black people. Oh, I'm so sad. Somebody come console the white guy. It's like,
or just
get the fuck over your fucking self.
That I've just admitting that you've benefited in some way of existing in a world that it is easier for you. Like acknowledging that is such a huge mindfuck for people. Like it's so huge that in their lifetime they won't do it. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what Trump says because this is easier than dealing with it.
I think some people I know have a tough time realizing maybe how good they have had it, have it now, and kind of how much I'm acutely aware of like how kind of fortunate my upbringing was and has been, and whatnot. But again, like being aware of that and stuff, not guilt, but at the same time, just aware like, cool, that was your experience, bro. Right, You're in the kind of minority here.
Right. Yeah. And, so me growing up, lower middle class, adjacent to a very poorish neighborhood. We grew up with a lot of different races. Mm-hmm. Our neighbor's Hispanic. Neighboring community was mainly African American. So we grew up in a very mixed pot, And so there wasn't a lot of there was racial tension, but it wasn't. We were all pretty much the same class. There were the rich people across the freeway, and then there was all of us,
it was
right?
fuck those guys.
So we grew up in more of like this equal, even though there was still this undertone of like, okay, we get it. There's racial differences. There's but we're still like. We're still all fucking poor,
but
right?
we all can agree to fuck those guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But when I was, let's say, 18 years old, I remember getting pulled over doing nefarious kid shit, and I was the only white guy in the car with a couple Hispanic guys and a black guy. And we were driving around smoking weed. That's what we do, right? It's fucking high school shit, right?
Yep.
And this is when I finally realized or I guess one of the details that added to that information for me was while we're getting pulled over, my friends of color were like, you're going to get let go because we're a bunch of minorities in a car with a white guy. Mm. Can we give you our drugs? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, totally. Gave me all the weed, a little bit of pills and shit like that. And I just crotched it, right? And just crotched it, put it in my crotch, pulled over, flashlights, everybody out of the car immediately, hands on the hood, blah, blah, blah. And then
didn't search you.
Cop comes right over to me. He's like, fucking walk. And I'm like,
cool.
Okay. And I looked at my friends and they were like, because they knew, they gave me everything. They had nothing on there. There's no weapons, all the drugs. It was just a little bit of weed and it was pills and they were all on me. They looked at me and said, walk. Mm-hmm. And so I fucking walked. And I watched them molestly search those gentlemen in that car, rip car seats out and shit like that. But I trotted away because I'm like, I got all the drugs,
right? And
they're not going to go to jail, And it's like, fuck, I'm the white guy. Mm-hmm. I'm the white guy, so I'm the safety one, right?
Well, and that's what people don't understand when they talk about white privileges. It's like you guys grew up in the same neighborhood, you had the same, well, not the same access to things, but you had similar environments, right? Mm-hmm. That is not what white privilege is. Right. White privilege is being able to walk away unharmed from the. You know what I'm saying? It's different.
Not getting searched,
right? Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yep. Totally.
Those types of things. You have different experiences when it comes to life.
Yeah.
Things that just Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the election coming up, I know we'll probably talk a bit about that as we get closer to it, but I think that's.
You should watch the debate though. It was kind of fun.
I've seen enough highlights from it now that I feel like I've got a good understanding of it. But here's the thing too,
the introduction for me was the best part, and it was so indicative of him and her.
Right.
So at the debates, all the opponent, you meet in the middle, you shake your hand, and then you go to your podium. He went directly to his podium. She had to walk all the way across the stage. And then because they had no audience, it was silent. And I was like, oh, I'm stressed. She walks right over to them. She goes, Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate. So not only, like, she said so much with so little, like, not only did I have to cross the entire stage to come to you because you refused to meet in the middle, which is just the biggest metaphor ever. I am coming to you. I am shaking your hand. I am saying my name correctly to your face. And it was just like, it was the best part of the debate for me, just having her cross that whole stage. And he didn't look at her the whole time.
Yeah, I've heard that he doesn't acknowledge that she's actually running.
Right.
It's still, he thinks he's running against Biden.
He's running to not go to jail. Yeah. Let's be real.
Well, so, so for like the debate, for an example, right? I thought about watching it. Thought about,
down Periscope was just fucking
it's
just Kelsey Grammer. You're like Harlan Williams.
Dude, it's been 2 weeks since I've seen it. Come on, I gotta get back into it. Forgetting the whale parts. But here's my point. I've made my decision. There's zero fucking way I'm going to change my mind. There's nothing that's ever going to happen, right?
For everybody.
And so,
on
like,
both sides.
So for things like that, for me, I'm choosing to remove myself from the narrative because I don't want to be charged by it. I don't fucking care what he says. I don't care what they do. Yeah. I've already made my mind up, right? Unless Kamala Harris comes out fucking Kamala Harris comes out fucking with a goddamn Klan mask on, with holding the fucking South will rise again flag. I'm not even considering changing my fucking vote. Yeah. But
not sure if that's a deal breaker for me. Given, I mean, it's kind of 1 and 1A.
I would just not vote.
Okay, but at that point, how big is the hood?
No. At that point, I would just bow out. I would just not vote. Like, honestly, I'm like, okay, I'm not fucking playing this game. It's clearly a game. But the other side of that, because I made that statement to my kid, the other side of that is I hope that one day in my lifetime, I have a desire to watch the debate because I am so undecided. Yeah. By the amount of candidates that we have, not just 2, maybe 4, maybe 6. Yeah. But I am so undecided in a good way that I've got to watch the debate to feel who's going to really get my vote.
I don't think that's ever happened in the history of
I've never had it happen to me.
No.
I'm sure, back in the day, there was probably some some like, oh, we like racism. Well, slavery's probably not the best, It's like all this shit, right?
My dad, people that are still undecided to me are, it's wild. How are you undecided?
I think in 92, my dad voted for Perot because Clinton was going to cost him more money.
Okay.
And he didn't like Bush. Yeah. So it's like, you know, like that was
I'm more of a Natty Ice fan myself, you know.
Fuck. Well, so it's actually pretty interesting in the local election here because we have, as far as, I've voted in everything I could have up and, like, I think I missed one election when I was, like, 19 or some shit, but I voted in pretty much everything. But, like, here the land commissioner, and this is a blue state, so it's important to kind of point this out, but, like, the Democratic Party tried to basically run against themselves in the primary for land commissioner, and their candidate is now into the main vote or whatever. He got in by 40 fucking votes.
Yeah.
So, like, as far as, and I was talking to Tiffany about this because we both voted for him. I'm like, well, that's 1/20th of the fucking vote right there. That's far as, like, if you want to talk about, like, not, like, not making an impact or some shit.
Yeah, especially in local shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, local government is, like, if you're jaded on voting and all that shit, at least look at your local, because you can make a big impact in your local stuff.
That's the only way to really make a difference.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, as much as, like, the two candidates that we have in the major right now that are going for it, honestly, I mean, there's going to be volatility if one gets another, but, like, to be fair, they're interchangeable. They're interchangeable. It's not going to fucking be a big difference, especially like you said, this state, we're all fucking good over here, And so, vote at your local level or, get as involved as you want to, but man, this is, I don't know. It's going to be volatile whichever way it goes in the next few weeks or next few months.
A lot of astrologers have been saying that they don't see an election happening. Not saying that, like, not an election, but just, like, not in the traditional sense. Like, it's like whether it's, I don't know. Yeah. I just don't see it going smoothly.
Well, it didn't go smoothly last time.
Right, exactly. And now that we've set precedent, I don't see it going smoothly either way.
2000 didn't go smoothly. That was all that bullshit in Florida with the hanging chads.
Chads. Well, and I mean, there's
Supreme Court elected that guy.
Well, there's just so many opportunities for I mean, I know Trump's already looking into, or the Trump team was looking into whether or not a black person could even run for president because of a law from the 1800s. Oh, cool. Not considering black people humans. That was put into a constitution.
or whatever.
No, it was a different law than that. But
it's gonna
there's multiple. You gotta put them out.
Right? He's gonna have to dust off some of that Jim Crow shit.
And it's like, when confronted about it, it's like, we're just exercising our options.
Just doing our due diligence.
So the fact that Biden was the front runner or was the chosen, then couldn't, and Kamala
the fact that he would give up.
It's like there's already a narrative going on behind the scenes that we haven't even been exposed to, right? There's such a big narrative,
tonight, I think it was on the Daily Show or some shit, or it might have been the Colbert Report or whatever. Whatever late night with Stephen Colbert, but it was talking about, well, see, if the election system is only rigged if the Democrats if they get elected. If they get elected, then it's a flawed system and it's wrong. If the Republican gets elected, then this is a perfectly well-run system that has no flaws at all.
It worked this time.
It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's rough.
All right. Well. Okay.
Hey, chive on out there.
Yeah, get out there and vote. See you next time.